let me not slouch back. Let me get fucking act like an adult. Jesus. All right.
No, one of us
Not
should.
slouch. All right. Right. One of us. One of us should be the adult in the room. You know.
I'm glad it's you because I have no idea.
I don't know what I'm doing. Why are you? Don't give me that responsibility. Yeah, if I controlled this world, it would be a nightmare. You know, no one's getting out alive, and it's just because of incompetence.
On that note, hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Post Credits Podcast. Today, we're going to answer a very special, important question, and that is there a phantom in that mall? But before we get to that,
I want to talk about Rob Zombie for just a minute or two.
All right, lay it on me.
You know, everyone saw the trailer. You know, and this is going to be a little late, so it's just how we record. But everyone saw the trailer. But everyone watched that trailer, and man, did I get some messages from some friends where it's just like, wow, this looks awful. And I agreed with them. It looks real bad. I believe you said you didn't even finish it, right?
I didn't. I got, it's like 2.5 minutes. I got like minute 15.
I got through it. Now, it's a Universal movie, right? So that's who's distributing it. Now, when you see a Universal logo like that, you're just like, oh, that's coming to the theater. I just find it so amusing that fan backlash for this, or whatever kind of backlash. I guess you can't even say they're fans if there's this much hatred. And it's been a minute since I've seen this much hatred for something from a trailer in a long time. And now it's getting pushed out on Netflix.
Is it
not even going to the theater?
Like Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre level of like dislike?
Oh, I think it's more. I think it's way more. When I was reading through the comments, it took me like just scrolling. You're just like, I just want to find something positive, right? Something. And it was like, I'll give it a try. Was like the most positive thing I found in like a sea of like
oh no,
what is this shit? You know, so thousands and thousands, and this was like hours after the trailer launched, right? Not like today, which we're a few days removed and more comments have accumulated, but just in that first like day, it was like, oh wow, there's nothing, no one wants this, no one. So I just find it funny that it's now getting just pushed silently to Netflix. And I was on a Discord and I was like, yeah, I just think they should cancel it. I think it'd be the ultimate power move by Netflix is to cancel something before it hits the airwaves, you know, because
like they bought it just so couldn't.
They bought it so
out.
They could cancel it.
It's like one of those catch and kill news stories. That...
Yes, exactly.
Oh man.
Yeah. Wow. I think that would be the coolest move. It would be new territory, one that also Rob Zombie deserves, you know. So
well, that's unfortunate because I know the Munsters definitely have their fans because people usually fall into like, you know, one of two categories, and that like they either like the Munsters or they like the Addams Family, you know. And I think the Addams Family's had a much better go of it than the Munsters, and the Munsters really haven't had like a serious attempt to really revive them in a long time, so it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, they haven't. But you know, it's like every 10 years or so you get like a new Addams Family thing, you know, whether it's a new movie or animated or whatever. You know, and now there's like a Wednesday movie coming out. I don't know what the deal is with that. I don't know if it's animated or not. So
no, I think it's Tim Burton's producing it. I think Christina Ricci's reprising her role.
Oh no shit! Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
I'm pretty
really
sure.
Cool.
I know Tim Burton's producing it. I want to say that that's accurate. That Christina Ricci's coming back. That it's a continuation of that somehow. But
all right, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I do know that it's like Wednesday grown up. So I'll watch
you know what?
it.
I'm intrigued. I'm more excited just having that little tidbit of information over anything Rob Zombie has ever done. So anyways,
doesn't take much.
No, it does not take much.
Ow.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about that trailer. I'm just like, oh man. Here's what I'll say. I thought the green that was a very saturated and nice green makeup, but I just don't like the makeup. You know, I like the color green that was in that trailer. That's the only nice thing I can say about it. So, anyways, shall we get into the main course of this?
Phantom of the Ball, Eric's Revenge.
Yeah. How do you know about this movie? This is this was one of your picks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you.
Okay, so
we're
here,
back.
Yeah, we lost the light here, but we're back. And the question was, how did I know about this movie? Because this was my pick.
Uh-huh.
I have incredible friends who specialize in finding like the cream of the crap, and it's just weird movies, but they're also like, you know, they do movie reviews, and they get screener copies for things, so it's not like they're just blind buying these movies like that. So a friend of mine is actually, he knows I'm kind of into these kind of like, you know, sort of cheesy, but like they're not so bad to give you a headache kind of movies, you know. And he gave me his press copy of this. It's like, you'd like this movie. So
okay, did you think I would like this movie?
I think it's like, it's a bonkers movie. Like it's objectively not good,
right?
Like it's objectively not a great movie.
No, like if you're just on its merits, if you're just strictly like a teacher grading a paper, you'd be like, nope, that's not how you tell a story. But I don't know.
I thought it was bonkers.
It is bonkers.
It's amazing that this exists and that there's so many people in it who you know, like Pauly Shore before he was famous. Ken Foray's in here, who genre fans, of course, instantly recognize. Morgan Fairchild's in there as the like the A-list celebrity.
I don't even know what her character was.
Oh, she's like the mayor of the town.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just in there
a little bit more sense in the prop.
Like an A-list actor to, you know, who's a little bit past their prime but still famous enough to give the movie kind of some gravitas. That was a famous thing. Like a lot of movies used to do that, still do that. A lot of lower budget movies, like with John Saxon. That's why he's in Nightmare on Elm Street. That's kind of what they wanted out of the Donald Pleasance character and the original Halloween, where they were trying to cast like Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing, and you know there's pushback against that, so they got Donald Pleasance. Same kind of thing.
Okay.
So you didn't like the movie? That's what I'm hearing.
I did.
Okay.
No, but I just want to. I have criticisms.
Oh, that's as you should. Yeah.
You can't get through this movie without being like, hang on a minute, you know. But at the end of it, it's like when I'm like, did I like this? I'm like, yeah. I put it into the same category as Hello, Mary Lou, as Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, this should be good. I shouldn't like this. Like everything's pointing to be like, don't like this movie. This is not by every like definition, you shouldn't like this movie.
Yeah.
But it, you know, climbed over that wall, and somehow I like this movie. You know, doesn't make any sense. I can't pinpoint why there's a certain type of movie or a certain things happen in a movie, and suddenly I'm like, yeah, I like it now. You know, because it wasn't for me. It wasn't until like later on in the movie, probably like 2/3 in, where I was on the fence, where I was like, why did Brian pick this? You know? And then there was, I don't know what it was, but there was a turn where I'm like, I'll probably buy this movie. It's on Shudder right now, but I'll probably buy this movie.
It's it's definitely a cult movie. Yeah. And I got Prom Night 2 vibes from it, which that's why I do recommend this movie to certain types of people, right? Because like Blake, when I watched Prom Night 2, Blake Kleiner, who's been on the show before. He's been in every Friday the 13th episode we've done. We'll continue to be in every Friday the 13th episode till we get through that series and more beyond that. He was one of the people where, like, when I saw Prom Night 2, I was like, I called him up and was like, what are you doing this week? I'm coming over. We're watching this movie. And so we watched it and he liked it. And it was kind of the same thing where it's like, oh, you're going to love this. And then you did. And it's not quite like, it doesn't quite reach Prom Night 2 heights, but it's like right in that category where that's what I enjoy about it, where it's kind of what I like to think of as like comfort horror, where like it's cheesy, but it's well done in like all the right ways. And it's somehow better than it has any right to be, but it's not scary, you know, but it's like, I want to watch a horror movie, but I just want to put something on. It's just going to be entertaining. And that's really what this was for me.
It is all of that. But then I also noticed my brain was like going into overdrive, trying to figure it out as I'm watching it. Not because it's a mystery whodunit. Like, no, the movie is like showing you exactly who's doing these things. Right. So it's not that. It was like, there's certain things that just go nowhere. And you're trying to figure out its place in the broader story. And
for example,
the death of the pianist. It's never mentioned again. Okay, like the everything surrounding that one character is so confusing. I mean, I can lay it all out.
Even the way that he dies with like the snake.
He's on the toilet taking a shit, right? And then Eric sends a cobra snake up a drain pipe.
Okay, all right.
And then it bites him.
Let's just for people who have no idea what this movie is, and I feel like that's
okay. Let's go to the beginning and set it up.
Let's just give a brief overview of what Phantom of the Mall is, and then we can get into some of the specifics about it. I feel like that would be helpful for people.
Sure. One thing it's not is a sequel, even though it has a subtitle. So just don't go looking for Phantom of the Mall.
Yeah, because Eric's Revenge is not part 2.
Right. It is just the movie. That's the whole title, so don't get confused.
Let's circle back to that after we do the synopsis, because I don't want to put that off much longer. So Phantom of the Mall is basically a modern day reimagining of Phantom of the Opera. I mean, that's the idea. You know, the guy's got the half mask and he's running around. It follows a lot of the same tropes of someone trying to get their unrequited love back, blah, blah, blah. But it's instead of an opera house, it's in a mall, because that was a very contemporary thing to do in the 80s. Now, the title or character, the Phantom / Eric.
Yes.
His house was burned down because this crooked development company wanted their land. They were the last holdout for this mall, this mega mall that they were going to build. So there's this whole thing with these investors where they, you know, had this thug torch his house, and that's where he kind of gets separated from his high school sweetheart, Melody, who they're in the house and it gets lit on fire. She escapes, but he's presumed to have died. So 1 year later, the mall is totally built.
Yep.
And there's
complete with an underground maze as well.
there's this character running around, a phantom, if you will.
Yeah.
Hiding in the mall, causing hijinks.
Yes.
I think
that's a nice way to put hijinks. Like, you talk to my ex-girlfriend, I'll kill you.
Well, yeah, and he's going after, for the most part, he's going after the people involved, right? So like the mall owner, the investors, the guy who burned his house down is actually he's kind of the muscle of the investors / I don't know why they just gave him a job at the mall just to keep him out of jail, but maybe it's part of his work release program or something like that.
Right. Community service.
Yeah, because this guy's been in and out of the joint a million times, but
on your community service is to be a cop.
Yeah. We're gonna sponsor him. It's okay. Just just let him out of jail for the millionth time.
Yeah.
So that's basically the plot of the movie. And then there's a whole friend group. So like Melody, loves their Pauly Shore is one of their friends, has a job at the mall. Someone else that they used to know is like a photographer, blah blah blah. There's there's a nice kind of like friend group in here.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the cool things is that like the better Friday the 13th movies where you kind of like the group of kids. I feel like that's kind of at play here.
Yes.
They're not super well written, but it all hangs together in a way where you feel like, oh, you know what, maybe they would be friends in real life. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a certain amount of like connective tissue between them all that makes them feel like they're actually friends, not people playing friends, you know? So it's a little bit believable, but then some of their actions are like, man, these are kind of dumb people, aren't they? Like, they're just kind of dumb.
Well,
so,
yeah. You'd have to be to find an eyeball in your frozen yogurt and then play it off like it's just some prank or whatever.
Right. I mean, that's Pauly Shore like being like, oh, this is fun. I don't know if it's him. Maybe it was just in the script, but whatever. Yeah, he puts like a fake ear in, and then there's like a gag later that's supposed to be gross, but it doesn't land because
it's presumed that he's putting another one over on.
Yeah. It's like, it's not real. But then let's just think of logistics of getting that eyeball from where it was into a ice cream cup. You know, it's pretty difficult because it's like the guy who got killed, who lost his eyeball, both of them eyeballs, you know, from being shocked to death, which I was like, oh my God, you know, that's wild. And then like the eyeballs pop out. But that was in some sort of like mall dungeon, like down some long air vent, really deep beneath the mall. I don't know like why the circuit breaker had to be so damn far away down this like really tiny aluminum tunnel. But so that's where the eyeballs popped out at. But then like I think like the ice cream store or whatever is on like the 3rd floor of the mall. So it had to be like walked. And then like Eric put that there. He was like, you're friends with my ex-girlfriend. I'm going to ruin your Sunday.
It shot out of the guy's head and just fell into the open box. That was going, what was the name of the place? Like the Chill Factor or something?
Yeah.
I think it was the name of the yogurt stand. Yeah.
Oh, it went into the box.
Yeah.
Okay, see, that was a weird, because I'm like, why are they focusing on the box?
Now, I don't know anything about yogurt. Like, I know pop is like it comes and you got your bag of syrup and then they hook that up to the machine and it gets cut with seltzer water and that's how you wind up with fountain drinks. Apparently, that's what happens with frozen yogurt or something. I don't know. Because it basically went into the concentrate instead of, you know, and then they'd put that into the machine. And that's your vanilla or something. But then the eyeball totally wouldn't survive because that would have to be ground up and processed. But
yes,
we're way over rationalizing that aspect of it. I got the impression that the air vents were up high and the tunnels were down low, but it was all connected. Like there was just this labyrinthine system that went through the whole place. But they really just use it for whatever's convenient.
Yeah. Oh, this is the underground. Oh, it's in the air ducts. It's all the same hallway.
Yeah. Now you're in the 2nd story. Now you're in the mayor's office.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that's the movie in a nutshell.
That's the movie. Is this guy, Eric, wants revenge. He doesn't want anyone to harm Melody, his ex-girlfriend, who it seems like they're both in love with each other. But then there's like, the one thing that I noticed is like every dude in this movie sucks. They all suck. Like even her new photographer boyfriend is a creep. You know, I think surprisingly, Pauly Shore is the only normal dude in this movie, and he's Pauly Shore. Like Pauly Shore is not a normal guy.
Right.
But compared to everybody else, he's not a dickhead. You know?
Well, and he's pretty tame here because this is pre-Weasel.
Yes. Wheeze the juice. Yeah.
And
it's pre that.
I was listening to an interview with the director, and he was saying that he wanted to, like, he picked Pauly Shore for this because he saw him at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles.
Well,
there,
his mom owned that. That's why he was there.
Pauly Shore's mom owned that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was her. That's her jam. Yeah. So.
Oh wow.
So yeah, like, it was almost like similar to like Johnny Carson. Like if you got her to laugh, like it was almost like you were made or something. That's how like comedians talk about her. So she was like super influential in like comedy, but everyone knew who Pauly was because he was the kid hanging out because his mom owned that store. So It's like his babysitters were comedians basically, so.
Wow.
I can't imagine what that would be like. You're like, oh, that'd be so cool. But then it's like, well, that's Sam Kinison is Pauly Shore's upbringing, So I don't know if that's such a good thing. So
yeah, he seems to have done all right for himself.
Yeah.
But that's all I wanted to make, is it definitely wasn't like the full on.
No, it wasn't full on Pauly yet.
Yeah, we're not Biodome or Encino Man Pauly. Like, this is
in the army now.
Yeah,
none of that. Not yet. But then there's the cop who will not take off his earring, even though that's like a way to identify who burned Eric, is because he was wearing an earring when he did it. He was like, I'm not taking off this earring. Okay. I mean, like, it's a small price to pay to conceal your identity, but whatever,
Yeah, but they, for movie reasons, they left it there just to connect the two characters.
Yes.
It's interesting.
I want to go back to the photographer boyfriend real quick.
Okay.
Because, like, the thing about Eric, which we'll go into detail later, is he's not a good person, right?
Well, he definitely winds up in that area later on.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Because she's moved on that he hasn't.
Yes, but here's the thing. Like, every guy in Melody's life, like I said, they suck, but she's got, like, her new boyfriend that she professes her love to by the end of the movie basically stalked her. Like, he is the one that took the photo of her escaping from the burning house, which it didn't seem like anyone was around, but like, that's what he said. He was like, yeah, remember that picture? Yeah, I took that of you. And it was like of her escaping the house, but then it doesn't make sense later. We'll get to why it doesn't make sense later, but it's like, wait a minute. So,
well, I mean, right there, that would make him like suspect, like a prime suspect,
number one,
for burning the house down.
Yeah. But then it's like, wait a minute, you just took this photo of this random girl you don't know, and then just followed her around until she got a job for a year. Like, what? So
yeah,
the men are not role models in this movie at all.
No.
So anyways, yeah.
Now there's a couple leaps of logic that you have to make in order to get from the house burning to the 1 year later setup, because there's the whole thing of like, what Eric was doing in the time between he
was learning karate,
being burned to death and left for dead, and then having his lair inside of the fully built construction, mall.
Learning roundhouse kicks and, muscle training. That's what he was learning.
There's a bit that they cut out because this movie is kind of fascinating in that it has a lot of different versions.
Okay.
There's the theatrical version, which I presume is the one that's on Shudder. Then there was the TV version. And then there's the version that Arrow put together, which is kind of a supercut of the two, where it's the theatrical version with all of the additions and omissions from the TV version reinserted.
Okay.
So I've seen both of those. I haven't seen the TV version just by itself because they didn't include that one on the Blu-ray. But there's a whole scene in the beginning in the prelude where like Pauly Shore and Melody are all at school, like watching Eric because he's like a gymnast.
Well, that would make so much sense because I didn't see that.
Yeah, no, they cut that out of the movie. That's one of the big things they cut out. And then there's another scene that they cut out later on where Pauly Shore and the girl he winds up kind of becoming boyfriend girlfriend with, they were dancing. It's not a bar. It's like a lounge or something. They come back to that later, but there's a whole scene with them there before, so they were there for a long time.
Okay.
That's one of the other big things that they cut out. But anyway, yeah, Gregory Scott Cummings is that's his name. Mac's dad from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he's the one with the earring that you're the thug. Because that was another thing about the TV version that was a little strange, where they, the scene when Melody gets attacked in the parking lot, like she's walking out to her car, and then Eric's just there like a fucking crossbow and shoots the guy.
Yeah.
They
That's
never
the pianist, by the way.
Yeah, they attribute that to the thug character, that's his first attempt to kind of like knock her off. But that's the piano player in the actual movie. So that's just one of those weird, like, we got to cut something out to make something have time. So
Weird. Okay. Yeah, the pianist thing. So going back to that, he's just dead now. He's bleeding from his shoulder, killed by snake bite, in the bathroom of a mall. No one says anything. No one finds him ever again. They're just like, oh, someone's in the stall because I see feet. So I'm just,
We're just not going to go in there ever.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the cleaning people come in, like, oh, man, there's those shoes again.
Right. So it's like you have this setup to this misdirection of like who these people are. And then he's dead. Nothing is said about it ever again. Was he working with them, or was he just a separate criminal that's also working in this mall? Is he linked to Eric's death? Is he linked to a syndicate of evildoers?
Yeah, I feel like that he was just another criminal, but because he tried to like he was ordered to kind of take Melody out, that's why he ran afoul of Eric, and that's why he killed him. Because for the most part, the other victims, which Eric's a pretty creative murderer in the slasher movie sense.
Yeah. Killed someone with a escalator, Yep,
that was Travolta's nephew.
I thought it was. I was like, is
Tom
this
Friendly?
Is this the guy that improvised the Native American burial sites from the Friday the 13th movie?
Yep.
I think it is.
Tom Friendly, that's his name.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He is just a scumbag in this one.
Yep. Just another check mark to all men suck in this movie, except Pauly Shore. So
yeah, it's true, because he was harassing the ladies in the lingerie store. Prior to his death. Yeah. So let's come back to the Peeping Tom in a second, because I actually have a note on that. It's not much. It just goes to show you that, like what you're saying, that people are scumbags in this movie. It's one of those fascinating things, right, where like everyone's kind of a bad person. Like, not that anyone deserves anything that's happening, but like even Eric in his quest for revenge is not really a wholesome character. And like he's trying to kind of like get back, like he's holding Melody hostage against her will because she's moved on, but he hasn't. And it's this total shock, which how wouldn't it be?
You know what? Since you just brought it up, this is when I was like, I like this movie now. And it was this moment right here, right? Where
is that where he's like lifting his weights when she like...
No, it was just like, oh, he's alive. She knows what we've all known for this whole movie now, you know? Their undying love can reunite them and they can live happily ever after. And she's going to disregard his mutilated face from the burns, even though he looks like a monster now, right? Well, they're going to be fine. And she's going to watch him kick ass and take names throughout the rest of the movie. Record scratch, no. He is kidnapping her and holding her hostage because they can live in the underground forever now.
Yep.
And I'm just like, I was like, yes. I mean, no.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
The fact that she responded like, I'm sorry, Eric, but no.
Yeah. Yes. Like,
you will stay here.
Yeah. You can't go anywhere. Like, wow. I'm just like, that's so impressive. So it's just like one stalker to the next stalker, you know? So
that might have been trying a little bit too hard on the script's behalf of bending this back towards the events of Phantom of the Opera, because Phantom of the Opera is a character who suffered an accident, but he's been watching this other person from afar, and he develops kind of this parasocial love for her, even though she doesn't know him, and, you know, kind of introduces himself into her life through like music lessons, but she doesn't know he's just a voice in her dressing room. And that's kind of when he becomes the monster, is when they're all hunting him down. Whereas the personal connection makes this a little bit more unsavory.
Yeah. And also, like, he's hunting everyone else down. Like, no one's hunting him down. He was just like, I'm going to hunt them all down. Did you say anything? Did you even breathe on my girlfriend?
Yeah.
I'm going to murder you. You know, it's so controlling. It's so really toxic.
He's really proactive in that regard.
Yeah. Well, it's like he's in his lair with like one camera, but 5 monitors just watching Melody and her friends just heavily breathing. And it's just like, okay.
You know what I want to know is, so I was watching that. This is kind of like one of my Jason Goes to Hell criticisms too, is like they're watching something on a security monitor and like, where did this footage come from? Because it's not from the angle of a security monitor. It's like from the angle of someone hiding a camera following her through the mall.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, hang on, hold on. Like,
yeah. No, it's lunacy. But there's so many of these moments in this movie where it's just like you can't help but stay like focused on it, because you're like, who made this decision to have this in this movie the way that it is, you know? And you're like, I'm gonna keep going. You know?
I'm glad you bring this up, and this will be a good segue back into the whole Eric's Revenge subtitle. Yeah. So basically, it's the most Hollywood story you could possibly have, with the writers wrote this movie that they just called The Mall. Like, it was originally just called The Mall. And then this company bought it, so they sold the rights. It was a $4 million movie. They cut it down to like 2 point whatever million. So according to the writers, they totally gutted and changed the entire movie. And the script, their original script, is on the Blu-ray. I didn't have a chance to totally read it before this. I just kind of like skimmed through it, especially because I just watched the movie yesterday and I skimmed through it, the script a little bit, just to see, because I heard that interview with them where they're like, oh man, you know, they totally gutted it. They changed the whole thing. And I from what I read, I think the basic bones of the movie are still there, but the big things were like all of the action scenes were a lot more elaborate.
Okay.
And I mean, all of the dialogue was changed. Dialogue's cheap. I don't know why they couldn't they couldn't keep some of that. I don't know if it would have been better or worse, but I mean, maybe there's a couple lines that were held over, but there's barely anything. So to say that those two movie scripts are totally different, I believe it. So who made those decisions? I don't know, but it is basically the most Hollywood story you could have, where it's like they wrote this movie, they sold it, someone came in, totally rewrote it, and it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it vaguely resembles that original idea, but it's so different. And then, so the title was not only changed from The Mall to Phantom of the Mall, then at some point it became Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge. Now, The writers don't know where that came from. The director, in his interview, said he didn't even know where that came from. And all of them brought that point up where it's like, that's really confusing. Where it's like, who the fuck is Eric? Like, was there a first one and we missed it?
Right.
So all of them said that, but you know what's even more amazing too, right?
Yeah.
In the original script, the character's name was Carl, right? So
Carl?
This was almost called Phantom of the Mall: Carl's Revenge.
Jeez.
Which is somehow an even worse title. My apologies to Carls out there. It's just
Coral.
It's not a threatening name. It's like Eric's a threatening name either, but I think at least with Eric the connection there is that was the name of the Phantom and Phantom of the Mall or Phantom of the Opera. So I think he was renamed to be Eric as homage to Phantom of the Opera.
And the Mask. I gotta say, that's the only thing that's like, oh, this is a Phantom of the Opera type thing, is by calling it Phantom of the Opera and then or Phantom of the Mall, but the connection is there already, and then having him wear a mask that looks like Phantom of the Opera.
So
kinda.
Let's talk about the mask, just for, not that there's much to talk about. Like it's the Phantom of the Opera half mask. Like Andrew Lloyd Webber, every stage play you've ever seen, it's the damn Phantom of the Opera mask. There's a line in the credits that totally wouldn't fly today. It's the song by the Phantom of the Mall song by the Vandals, which is
it's
a fun song. I don't know. I thought it was a fun goofball song. Okay. It's not up there with like Return of the Living Dead or like stuff that they have, but it definitely fits into that era where it's like we need like a punk rock song for our horror movie. So it tracks. It's a product of the time. But there's a line of, is there a Phantom of the Mall or is it some kid in a broken hockey mask? Now, Jason's mask was not really broken technically. It just kind of had like an axe hole in it. That actually would have been kind of cool. Like, I mean, it would have made sense for like the Eric character was something that he could have found at a mall. But if he had like a broken hockey mask, it would have been like that kind of form factor. But you could have got away with it as something that they organically had in the mall.
Sure.
Instead of like wherever that Phantom of the Mall.
He did surgery on a mannequin's face. Maybe since there's so many different versions of the movie, we both have seen different types of them. So we might be like talking past each other just because we haven't seen the clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, in the one I saw, maybe you didn't see it. Like there's he gets into a store, gets confronted by a security guard.
Oh yeah,
he's a mannequin. But then after that scene, you can see him like taking a scalpel to the mannequin's face and cutting out the Phantom part.
Oh yeah, they justified it. I just think it was kind of like lazy,
Yeah.
At least if it was a broken hockey mask, it would have had a little bit more of its own identity. Like it still would have served the same function.
And it also would have been like unique. Yeah. Since it's a horror movie, because of that reason and all. Yeah. Giving homage to a superior horror movie, That's the weird thing. Like I was thinking, like just kind of talking about why I like certain things and why I don't like other things. Like it's really hard to like put these movies into a box. These types of movies, the Eric's Revenge,
Eric's Revenges of the world.
Yeah. Because it's like, we shouldn't like this at all. Like there's too many things that are just like, that's really stupid, or they could have done it better, or I would have done it totally differently. But then it's like, but for some reason, the sum of all of its parts, like is able to elevate itself past those like criticisms, like those momentary criticisms along the way. But what is that? What do you think is that thing that's like, yeah, this is bad, but I'm going to disregard it and enjoy it. And it's like unironically, right? Because it's like because it's like I have the whole Leprechaun series, right? And I've watched a couple of them now.
I advised against that, just for the record.
Yeah, well, I
think I'm going to buy that. It's like I think you'd be happier with the $20.
It was $10 for 7 movies. Like, come on, that's less than $2 a movie. And I have that adds 7 movies to my collection, just got to bolster that thing up. But those movies I don't like, but they're kind of fun to trash,
Mm-hmm.
But this movie's fun and I like it, but I'm still going to trash it, It's like a difference. And I don't know what that thing is that makes it different. So
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it was made with heart by the people
yes, maybe that's it.
involved. And yeah, it's just, it somehow charms you. I mean, you said it, it's worth more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. But when you like think of the specific parts, you're like, man, that's so dumb.
Yeah. What was that
That's
again?
really bad.
he burned a guy to death with a flamethrower. Like there's just flamethrowers in them all. Like,
yeah. Okay.
Weed burner. That's weed burner, $39.99. You could buy a flamethrower in 1989.
Dude, someone needs to make the flux capacitor to go back in time. Like I want a flamethrower for $40. I mean, that's like 1980s money, but still.
Hello, Amazon.
Yeah. I don't want to buy a flamethrower from Elon Musk. And I want the real flamethrower because that thing launched flames onto that bad guy right at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, can we talk about like that whole end sequence? Are we there in the podcast where we can talk about the end? We've already skipped around a lot, but we can come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Polly's friend, the woman, when they go and try to find her, like her Melody, trying to find Melody.
Yeah.
So they like see her car keys, right? They're like on the floor of the hallway, some hallway they're into. They're like, oh my God, there's her keys.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like they jump to going through the vent. So I just want to point out that their justification for climbing into the heating and air conditioning vent was because they found Melody's car keys on the hallway floor.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that, you're saying? That's what I'm hearing?
No, I'm saying, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, because I consider myself pretty logical. I can't make that jump, and be like, oh, car keys on the floor. I guess I'll go through that vent.
So that was prior to, so they're climbing through the air vents to try and find her. Meanwhile, the thug, Mac's dad, Gregory Scott Cummings, he was in Batman Returns as well.
Who is this?
The guy with the earring.
What was he in that?
Oh, he was one of the clowns.
Oh, well, there you go. Like,
he's actually been a bad guy in a lot of things. Like he's been cast as a bad guy just because he's kind of a, big, badass looking, 90s white guy.
He reminds me
with just like that death stare look.
Right. He reminds me of he was in like the X-Files as some alien that like had the needle weapon that like killed people by stabbing him in the back of the neck. And then he was also in Terminator. You know who I'm talking about? The goofy looking guy who does look really strong though, That's who it reminds me of. I wonder if they're related, and I'm not even joking, but they look very similar to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's Buffalo Bill and Joe Dirt,
Oh. Haven't seen that one, but I have seen Phantom of the Mall 3 times. So they find the keys. He grabs her, and this is when he's gonna like kill her for real. Like he's done messing around, because there's a couple of times where he's like on to them for like trying to get closer to the investors' plot. Right, because like the photographer guy tries to find him, and that they've got that chase scene around the mall. That car chase was wild. That was one of the things where I'm just like, a movie this cheap has a car chase like this. Like I don't know. I just felt like they really pulled out all the stops for that.
Well, the same cop does like a drift into some guy's waist, just whips that car around and hits some bystander right in the hip with his tail of his car. I'm just like, that guy's pelvis is broken.
Oh yeah. Yep.
No, but you're right. Like this car chase had no business being in this type of movie. you know.
Yeah, oh
So,
yeah, and they're not like it's not suggestive. Like they're smashing cars, they're sparking them on the sides of the garage, and
yep.
yeah, no, that was cool.
Yeah.
It I, so you know what cracks me up every time is like when you think the photographer is chasing him around the mall because he sees him in the
Yeah.
record store and he recognizes him from the night before, and then they have that foot chase through the mall, and then he gets in the elevator and he thinks he got away, and then just all of a sudden he's on the outside of the elevator, like.
Yeah.
What was his plan for like hanging
Well,
down over the side of the elevator, like upside down? I mean, it looked cool just from a movie making standpoint. Like, oh, that's neat, but it's like,
but how are you going to get yourself out of that situation?
Well, and what are you going to do to him? Like, he's inside an
Yeah.
elevator. You're not going to break the glass. You're hanging upside down. Like, the smart thing to do would have just been wait for him to get off and then jump at him from the top. But he can't do that because he's got to like straighten himself back up and turn around. Yeah, but then
that was awesome.
That was genuinely amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, then when he goes to kill Melody, like he's just gonna throw her in the box crusher. I'm like, holy shit! Like that guy's evil.
Right. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw you into this thing, this crusher of like. Have you ever like? Those things are terrifying. Mm-hmm. The box crushers, and not even those. I worked at a store in Grand Rapids that had giant augers. And when I say giant, you're probably thinking of something smaller, but they were the size of a semi-truck trailer.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I have never seen something like that before in my life. And it would be terrifying if you had to like go down in there to get something unstuck. You're just like, I don't want to be here,
So
yeah, you had to have like a teammate watching you and being on the outside, being like, hey, don't touch that button.
When I worked at Service Merchandise, that's exactly what happened with something. I don't remember what it was. It was 20 years ago. And I had to go in that thing and recover something. And that's exactly what I did. Is it's like, you stand here and watch this and you make sure that nobody presses that button when I'm in there. Because when you're in there too, I mean, yeah, it's not only the size of a semi-trailer, but like it's over your head because it's the size of just a dumpster. Like a flatbed truck comes in, takes the damn things away, puts in a fresh one there. And
then the drill is like, it's so intimidating and scary, You're just like, get me out of here as soon as possible. Just get me out of here, So.
Never got turned on, but just the fact every second you're down there, you're just sweating bullets. Like,
did I get it? Did I get it? I don't want to come back down here.
Yeah. So then Eric sweeps in.
Yeah.
Roundhouse kicks the shit out of him like 9 times.
Yes.
If that was in a modern movie, they would have done some cutaways to like make the kicks. Not that his kicks aren't impressive, but it's the fact that like the whole scene plays out like in a wide shot, and they're just like, yeah, man, you just do 3 roundhouse kicks in a row. We're not going to leave that. No, we're fine. Whereas like any other movie would have like he'd start the kick, but then they'd cut to like a close up of it hitting the guy's face.
Yes.
Yeah, not this movie.
Or be the Jean-Claude Van Damme where it's the same cut, but you repeat the same move 3 times in a row before you move on to the next thing.
The Lionheart.
Yeah. Just a spinning kick. The same shot 3 times and then the impact hits,
Yeah.
Just that needs to make a comeback.
I believe the actor Derek Rydell actually performed those karate moves. That wasn't a stunt guy.
Oh, it was really him.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, I seriously, that is cool. I've tried to roundhouse kick, and I just kind of did like a awkward tumble into the grass, So.
Yeah, no, he was pretty good with that. He had some athleticism, and I think that's where not cutting out the gymnast thing would have made a little bit more sense in the grand scheme of things, because you could see how he would take that into.
Here's my point of view, like, because I didn't have that information. Here's what I thought. I was like, oh, getting burnt and living in the underground for a year makes you super fucking strong, and you know how to do martial arts. Because I didn't have that other information, I'm like, well, where do you get all these skills? And I got to connect it to something.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so it's like, he gets martial arts from getting burned then, you know, like that's the logical thing because I'm not given that information. So that's what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, he just spent all of his time. He was so angry. He's like, I'm going to become Jackie Chan, you know?
I mean, it tracks
shit out of people. Yeah.
I like your version better.
So, well, thank you. Yeah. But it might have been a better movie had that been in there. I don't know. But I kind of like it as it is. I don't think I would change anything, even though like there's things that you could definitely improve to make this story better. At the same time, I don't think I would change any aspect of it, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's all of the things that make this movie great. That's why you don't want to change any one of those things because then you just don't get the same soup, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong between the two versions that I've seen. And
Okay.
I think it's kind of fascinating that the TV cut of this, from what I understand, actually makes chronological sense, unlike the Halloween 2 TV edit, where when you really look, I mean, it's not like it's unwatchable, but when you really like think about the timeline, it introduces some problems that the theatrical cut didn't necessarily have. But so let's go back to the perverts that you were talking about earlier. So the security guards were like watching the girls in the changing room, on the security cameras.
How was that legal? And
it's not.
I know.
Even back then, it wasn't.
Right, but then I'm also thinking like, okay, let's like make this. I do this a lot with movies, just in general. I'm like, okay, this is real, so I'm going to treat it like it's a real thing, right? Does that make sense? Are you following me along?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so to get that footage, they'd have to have a camera. But we're not talking about little like sunglass cameras that we have now because like lenses can be the size of a piece of rice, you know?
Right.
We're talking about like 1980s style camcorders. Those big ass shoebox size monstrosities that you would see that were painted white or that off cream color. You know that color I'm talking about?
Mm.
So that would be in the dressing room looking down at all these women changing.
Right. You'd hear the servo motors as it's zooming in.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing there is that the one of the actresses in the booth was Brink Stevens, who she's kind of famous for being in the background for a lot of, kind of like Linnea Quigley, where like she's got a following, but you know she never really had a ton of roles, right? She was always just kind of like
Heather Langenkamp or you know Jamie Lee Curtis, you know.
Yeah.
So never got there.
Like for example, she was in This Is Spinal Tap as one of the girlfriends. Slumber Party Massacre, I think she's the first victim. She was in a movie that I edited called Blood Siblings.
No shit. Okay.
Yeah. But that was one of those things where it's like, I didn't know who she was. And then my friends was like, oh, we got Brink Stevens. Like, who? But like they knew her from conventions because they were fans of like, you know, this like her career of being a background actor and things. So she has a following. It's just interesting where it's like, you know, one of the, like, again, like Linnea Quigley, it's like one of the actors that people went to when it's like, well, we need someone to take their top off. And it's like,
right.
You know,
but she is adored by like horror fans now. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Linnea is. Yeah. I don't know about the other, but like, yeah, like recently it seems like she's just been at every show, you know, which is like awesome because I don't think she was at too many a couple years ago. But I swear she has like one of the longest lines now at any one of these shows. So it's always interesting to me when you see that happen like later in life for somebody where it's like they're getting the adoration that they probably should have got back then for something they did like 40 years ago, you know? Like, it's just amazing. So,
well, I think the difference there is that Brink Stevens, you know, had a lot of, like, she was in a lot of stuff, but she never had a Return of the Living Dead.
Okay.
You know?
I see what you're saying.
And I think that's kind of the breakout difference there, where like Linnea had that, and you know, people could see her as an actor a little more direct, aside from taking all her clothes off, could, see her a little bit more directly because she was in the movie instead of like
Yeah.
the band member's girlfriend or the victim number one in something, or
Okay.
girl on security camera in Phantom of the Mall.
Right. Yeah, we need some nudity. So that's probably why that is even there. They're like, we need some nudity in this movie.
Oh yeah,
And then they're like,
and
hey,
that
we'll just be peeping toms in the women's dressing room.
I think I mentioned it, but just in case I didn't, that was also one of the things that was in the original script, was the security guards like being creeps.
Okay, I don't get that. I can excuse like exploitation as being a part of history and the time that a movie was made, right?
Mm-hmm.
To a certain degree, but then it's like when it's like you have to like give it a different context. I don't know, it gets really weird to me. Like, just the peeping tom shit just didn't need to be in this movie. That's one of my gripes. It's like, I just don't care about this, So
well, yeah, and it's interesting too, because like it makes Eric seem more unsavory than he already is.
yeah.
But that's kind of compounded by the fact that we already know that Eric's alive because the movie's called Eric's Revenge.
Right. Can we just talk about this back and forth throughout the whole movie?
Uh-huh.
This one group of people, like, I think Eric's alive, and then it's like, cut, Eric's jumping on a car trying to kill the cop. Like, I'm just like, okay, like, we all know Eric's alive, so it's not interesting anymore to hear actors ponder if Eric is alive,
right?
Because we know as the audience. So there's no intrigue there, but they lean heavily into trying to figure out if Eric is dead or alive for a long time in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, too much time. So
yeah, and even if the movie wasn't called Eric's Revenge, I feel like just the way that all of that material is handled, the mystery is gone.
yeah. Yeah, but that's also part of its charm, right? Because they completely failed at any tension or mystery in this movie simply by having like how it was edited, and then two, Eric's Revenge should not even be a part of the title. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like this is worse than Intruder revealing the identity in the trailer, because you don't even need to go that far knowing about this movie. You're just like, Eric's Revenge. Oh, that's Eric. Oh, okay. He's going to kill people. Who's Eric? It's that guy there, the one named Eric.
So. Yeah, and you know what he looks like because they show all that right in the prelude.
Yeah.
I wonder if you move that around, if you could have preserved any sense of mystery there, because you didn't know who the character was, and they could be talking about like the house fire or whatever. Like I feel like like maybe they were trying to do that, but they weren't quite successful the way that they edited it around.
I agree, and I think it was how it was edited, but what was contained in certain sequences, right? So it's like they could have had the fire in the house without showing Eric's face at all. Like, he could have done all the heroic things of getting her out, and then him dying, and then not showing his face or what he looks like. It could just be like a hand reaching out from the window with fire around it.
Yeah, or they could have just held that back until like the middle of the movie, because they revisit it a couple of times, because Melody's having flashbacks about it when they're having their lovemaking scene, and then all of a sudden she's in the burning house, which was, I thought that was kind of cool, by the way.
Yes, it was.
They it might not have looked as good as it could have, because it looked a little bit too much like a set, I think, at times, and a little too theatrical, but they tried, and that's definitely something that I appreciate about the movie, is that even though it has kind of a lower budget, kind of made for TV quality about it, like they try with the lighting a lot more, and I think the fact that it's on film helps it a lot, because that elevates it more than some of the other movies of the era where it's like early video they filmed it on video, and it just has that like pervasively cheap look to it.
Yeah.
Whereas this looks cheap, but it doesn't look as cheap as it could.
Yes, I agree. I agree with everything. It does look cheap, but it's not it seems like it looks cheap because of the era, not because of poor quality.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, I don't think it's, I mean, it probably is poor quality to a certain extent, but what I mean is like, it looks like it's from an 80s era of filmmaking. So it's just, there's a lot, for me, when I see something from the 80s, there's a little bit more slack that I give on the visual quality of it, just because like things weren't as good then, you know, they weren't as good for lower budget movie making.
That's a more fair way to put that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's due to the time restraints of whatever. I think they filmed this in a very short amount of time as well. They filmed this at the Sherman Oaks Galleria, which is a very famous mall from a lot of movies. Like Chopping Mall was filmed there.
Oh my God! Thank you.
Terminator 2, they filmed at the Galleria.
Okay. When I saw the first shot of inside the mall when they were like doing their little fucking press conference or whatever the fuck the mall people were doing, I was like, man, is this Chopping Mall? You know?
Have I been there before?
Yeah.
Why am I having deja vu?
Yeah. Just because of like, it wasn't any like one piece that I saw like interior, but I was like, that feels like the same green or gray and neon that I've seen in something else. And I was like, I'm just thinking about Chopping Mall right now, but could be.
It's a very distinctive mall too. The way that it's laid out. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, I part of what probably helps it make it look like Chopping Mall is that in similar circumstances, they had to film there it was all nights because the mall was open during the day. So the mall would close, they'd be there setting up, and then you just filmed there all night. So they probably had a similar lighting plot to it. Whereas when you have James Cameron money, you can film there during the day. And
right. It makes it look a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, James Cameron money is a lot of money. So
I like this movie. You know, it's one of those things where it's like you shouldn't. You know, we've been over this back and forth, but I would recommend it to people who enjoy kind of goofy horror movies, and I don't know. I think it's fun.
It's more than that though too, right? You know, it's not just like a goofy something you can laugh at, but it's like I can only describe it as like a certain type of movie that's not genre specific, but somehow succeeds even though so much of it fails, you know?
Well, and I feel like part of it too is you're not laughing, because even though I said it's a goofy movie, you're not laughing at the movie necessarily, as you're kind of laughing with it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And despite all my criticisms, like I'll probably end up buying this movie probably in like a month or two. But let's be honest, I'm not going to buy it tomorrow because I don't need to see it again.
You rush out and see it. I might watch it again after this podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's one of those movies where it's like I want to have this in my collection, right? Like I want to be able to just grab it whenever I want, throw it in, and just be entertained for what it's trying to do or whatever. And this is having this movie out now on Blu-ray is one of the reasons why I want physical media to still exist, is to rediscover these gems from an era long ago. We shouldn't have access to movies like this. Mm-hmm. Even though they were made, they should have died. But for some reason, people are like, no, I like this. We need to keep this relevant. You know? And I'm happy that there's companies there that are like, yeah, let's put it in a 2-disc special edition box set with all the bells and whistles. I don't know how that's possible, but I'm happy that something like that exists, and I got to support it. Because one day we're going to get Hello, Mary Lou. Hello Mary Lou's going to get the same treatment. I'll be doing cartwheels.
Bless your heart, Arrow Video, because they're the ones that are like really dedicated to preserving a lot of this kind of like, video store trash that.
Yes.
That, like you said, otherwise it just kind of be lost in the mist of time. And, a lot of it's not as simple as just tracking it down. They spend a couple years to put it together and, to really find the best elements for it and put together that supercut of the theatrical version, the TV version, and all the stuff that was left on the cutting floor.
Yeah. Well, and it's even, what's really cool is they're like interactive. It's almost like this, like I saw Shout Factory when they were like, hey, we're going to be releasing Event Horizon. I'm like, cool. And then like a month later, I see them on the internet being like, we're trying to find the lost footage. If anyone knows where we could find it, please drop us a line. I'm like, oh my God, they're using social media to try to find the lost Event Horizon footage that was left on the cutting room floor. That's just really cool to me that they're going through those links, not just packaging what already exists into something shiny and new again, but hey, let's try to restore this thing, So, or at least in maybe like a cut, like an alternate cut where it's like, yeah, we found the footage, but it's VHS quality, but we're still going to put it where it should be, so at least you can experience it. So, but then other times, just on a side note, I know we're wrapping it up, but I bought the Exorcist 3 Arrow Video one that had the William Peter Blatty's version of Exorcist 3, right? His cut of it. It sucks. It's like...
That's the author, isn't it?
Yeah, but he directed the third one as well.
Okay.
He wrote the first one, and then his book for the follow-up to The Exorcist was called Legion, and that's what Exorcist 3 is based on.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. But it's garbage. Anyways. So.
Well, Arrow Video did a fantastic job because their supercut does not look like that, and the movie actually looks really good. So it's cool to see that something from that era can survive. I know. I get it.
Looks great. I'm saying William Peter Blatty's director's cut, how it's edited, sucks. So
okay,
I just wanted to make that clarification.
All right.
It looks great. Just Arrow Video does a great job. I love Arrow Video. Happy they're around. Thank you, Arrow Video. Now,
fan of them all. Check it out. Right. Send us some screeners.
Yeah. No shit. I would love that. But man, this has been a blast talking about this movie. I do like it a lot, even though the criticisms are a mountain, so
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. So follow us on social media. Links are in the description below, or whatever. If you're listening to it, it's in the show notes. Yes, there you go. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.
That's right. New episodes every Thursday. Well, you say that now. It's
knock on wood. Knock on wood. All right.
See you next week.